Hey guys, it's Young Americans Abroad here again, and we're back today to review the USMNT game versus Panama. And Pat, this game was a lot different than the Wales game, especially in the goals department.
That's right, Austin. Seems like a few more days of training. We went from 0 to 6 goals pretty quick there. So that was really awesome to see for this game.
Yeah, and it was a very similar game in that we saw some really beautiful play, some nice 1-2 combinations, and just some good chemistry. This camp went quick, Pat, and we saw players that really enjoyed playing with each other. Really enjoyed their time on the pitch. Obviously, some of these guys have some chemistry from the U20 World Cup, even the U17 World Cup. So I guess it's not all too surprising, but at the end of the day, it was really nice to see again a well played game by the USMNT, and finally some goals. I feel like that was the big takeaway from this game.
Yeah, that certainly was the big takeaway, Austin. Again, nice to see the ball in the back of the net, and like you said, whether it's McKinney and Dest, come against each other in Champions League, to some other players now, in the Eredivisie altogether, or the Eredivisie in the Netherlands, and you can see some of the chemistry forming pretty quickly, which is awesome. But I guess I want to kind of head over right into the starting lineup here, Austin. There are some changes here that Greg Berhalter had. So starting from the back, obviously, you had Stefan as the goalkeeper, and the back four was Serginho Dest moved to the left back side, and then you were able to have Cannon on the right. So Anthony moved to the bench for this one. Alongside Brooks was also on the bench, and Tim Ream slotted in the left center back role alongside Matt Miazga. So he got another start there, some more time, and then moving to the midfielder there. Midfield roles, you had Tyler Adams kind of sitting back in the midfielder again, that role we saw him before, as well as Musah on the left side of the triangle, and then you had Weston on the right. So again, the triangle three we'll get into a little bit more. Really building a strong partnership there. But finally up top, you had some exciting changes with Nico Gioacchini. We saw starting centrally in the middle there. On the side was Ulianes in the left wing, and on the right you had Gio Reyna. So, Austin, want to get your takes briefly on this starting lineup.
Yeah, it was good to finally see a true striker on the field. I personally felt like that's what we were missing last game. Thanks, Leggett, for the time you had on the field. I know he scored today, so that was great.
Right.
It didn't seem like that was a great place to put him in. So I really like that. And yeah, the changes were interesting. I personally thought Richie Ledesma would have been a player I'd like to get on the field right from the start in this game. But when you think about, McKinney played so great last game. Tyler Adams was basically the only true center defensive mid on this team. I guess, Johnny and Owen Odasawi could have played that position, but we just, we don't think they're there at the moment. So I didn't think there was a great way to fit in Ledesma. So I guess at the end of the day, that was fine. And he did come on and make a big impact. So all in all, I was, pretty pumped going into this game, Pat. I didn't have any real issues with the lineup.
Yeah, I completely agree, Austin. No issues. It's awesome to get some more players game time and to see them. Limited 2 games here for the friendlies. So again, completely agree. But again, diving right into the first half here, guys. It was kind of off to a similar start, just feeling out the game for the first 15 minutes or so. We saw some usual, performances and patterns that we saw in the previous friendly, where that McKinney, Adams, and Musah midfield triangle was just in the right spots at the right time, intercepting passes, Austin, filling in those passing lanes and springing the counter and just winning the ball back so quickly, which is so important. But again, you didn't really see too much occur until, I believe, right at the maybe 17, 18-minute mark, and I could be incorrect there, but, Panama put the ball in the back of the net first. Almost kind of came out of nowhere, though, Austin, but Panama executed well and, took their opportunity and took it to the Reggie Cannon side on the right. Not to blame Cannon at all. He didn't close down initially as quick, but the Panamanian midfielder found it, put it right between Matt Miazga and Tim Ream. So he was unmarked in the forward Austin there, so just headed it right in the back of the net. That was a little rattling to see. At first, personally, I was like, "Oh man, I don't know what's going to happen here," but they're really resilient, and they bounce back pretty quick. And that's something you really want to see, especially going down. It is a friendly, but going down against a CONCACAF opponent that we're very much familiar with, and a team that was in the World Cup, last time around.
True. Yeah.
So yeah. Again, we had some great connections with even Weston, doing his dribbles and flicks around the field, and Musah even breaking out from the midfield, which happened right around the 20-minute mark or so, where he went kind of box to box there. Fantastic play where he was fouled, right on the edge of the box. It was great to see Gio step up and take that free kick and deliver it, drive it home with accuracy, precision. The goalie cheated, thought Gio was going to go over the wall a little bit, but he went around it to the side, put it right below, a really difficult spot for the keeper to get. So, that made it 1-1, Austin. So I think that's when things kind of turned around.
Yeah, I thought, seeing Musah win that free kick, because he was really kind of weaving his way through traffic, and then, like you said, got fouled right outside the box in perfect position. And it paid off. It helped us, score our first goal. So yeah, I thought that was good and kind of righted the ship, so to speak. And it was exciting to see what was next.
Yeah, exactly. Very exciting to see what was next. And I was really excited for Gioacchini to be named the starting lineup, and you saw that just a few minutes later. I think he had actually 2 goals, and we'll go into it, 4 minutes apart, which is awesome. So again, it was that crucial piece where I think McKennie just recovered the ball so quickly in the Panamanian half there, and just sprung, the attack, and, passed to Yanez. And Reina was involved there too, I believe. But Yanez had the shot initially on the side, and Gioacchini was there to poach the ball and finish it home, making it 2-1. And then a few minutes later, you had another amazing pass, started from Tyler Adams, and filling in those passing lanes where Weston kind of sprinted to get that ball and kept it barely alive, but a perfect effort, and just crossed it, chipped it right over the keeper, kind of diagonally back in the box there. And even great, awareness from Miazga to then put it back, direct it back across where Gioacchini laid out, just went to the ball, and it was picturesque, just what you want to see as a striker. Yeah. Sacrifice his body, and again, head it and put it in the back of the net, and had 2 goals, pretty much 4 minutes apart. So, that was really awesome to see. And then kind of cruise control for the U.S. for the rest of the second part of the first half, I want to say. I know I was getting that little confused off camera there. So yeah, again, it was just awesome, Austin, that anytime the U.S. lost the ball, even the Panamanian defensive third, they were so quick to recover it. Musah, McKennie, and Adams just filling those passing lanes. And then obviously, a lot of the players are just combining well. You had Yanez making some great darting runs, tricky runs. Dest had some moments in the left with Cannon, and all cylinders were firing at the end of that half there. So I think Panama was lucky to get out 3-1 at the half.
Yeah, they really did come on at the end, and kind of work their way up, especially after scoring those goals. You thought maybe they'd take the foot off their gas, take the foot off our gas a little bit and be content. But no, it wasn't, our team didn't look content at all on the day, and we won 6-2. So I think that was a good sign. And going into the second half, we did, we didn't take our foot off in the first half, but it did look like we took our foot off a little bit to start that second half, or at least we just weren't expecting Panama to maybe put their foot on the gas. So, it did get a little chippy there. I believe Weston McKennie had a pretty nasty slide tackle. I don't know personally if I would have said it was a red card, but it was definitely warranting a yellow card, and that's what he got. And it was just, there was some chippy play by the Panamanians as well. I know someone fouled Reggie Cannon and kind of got in his face after it too. So you really started to see that CONCACAF spirit come out in the second half. And so to start off, the USMNT were a little shaky, some bad passing. I think Gio Reyna had a few misplaced passes. Same with even Weston McKennie, who's been playing really great in both these games. So it was a little shaky to start, and then we had some subs from both sides. So it kind of shook up some things. You had Johnny Cardoso be the first sub off the bench today, and really got some good substitute minutes in both these games. So I thought that was pretty cool to see. And then you had Tim Weah come on for Ulianes, who kind of had the knock and had to come off. So we hope Ulianes will recover and get back to that team at Heerenveen and kind of get onto the field more than he has. But yeah, so that happened. Richie Ledesma came on, made his debut. And also we had, I guess, going further into the second half, we had Sebastian Lletget come on for Yunus Musah and Sebastian Soto finally make his debut coming on for Gioacchini. So that was cool to see. We did have a Panama goal, so they brought it back to 3-2 off a really nice shot just outside the box.
Nice.
Kind of took us by surprise a little bit and gave them some hope, to be completely honest. It looked like, they thought they were back into the game and, it was going to be a close final 15 minutes or so. But just, 4 minutes later, we had a nice cross from Richie Ledesma into the box to Sebastian Soto, who, we spoke of Gioacchini being a poacher earlier in the game. Sebastian Soto did exactly the same, had a nice header and made it 4-2. And then I believe it was 4 minutes after that, Reggie Cannon had another nice kind of, run down the right side and cross to Sebastian Lletget, who did pretty much the same thing. And that was good to see. And we weren't done yet, Pat. We weren't done. We had one more goal in this game. And again, it came off a Richie Ledesma to Sebastian Soto connection. So pretty similar to that first goal. Just, Richie was a little further outside the box and up the field. And Sebastian was a little further to the left of the box. And again, it was a nice cross from Ledesma into the box. And Soto did a great job finishing down into the ground past the keeper near post. And really took a lot of people by surprise. I know watching this live, I didn't think the ball went into the back of the net.
I know, I was confused too.
So they showed the replay. Yeah, it didn't really look like it. But yeah, it was cool to see that. Sebastian Soto had 2 goals in 7 minutes. And this really put the game to bed, 6-2 at that point in extra time. And I think it was a win that the U.S. can really feel proud of themselves. This Panama team obviously wasn't a full-strength Panama team, but you did see some of that chippiness that we're going to experience in CONCACAF. And I thought it was good to see these young guys kind of step up to the task and deliver, really put this game to bed when things got hard there with like 15 minutes to go. I thought that was a really good response from them. And, even if some of these guys aren't with the full national team going forward, we have a lot of camps, a lot of competitions coming up, like the U20 World Cup, Olympic cycle, hopefully will happen at some point. So, personally, I think this was a good game for all of these young guys to experience and really shows me that they're fighters and that, as well as they can play on the ball and be really picturesque at times and play some nice passing and has some, all of them have some pretty good technique. They also can put their foot on the throats, so to speak, and kind of win a game when their backs are against the wall. So I thought that was good to see. And Pat, I think that kind of does it for our recap of the game. Should we move now on to some more things we like? I know we started to get into it a little bit.
That's right, and there's a lot to like, especially just overall, from the camp in these 2 games. But wanted to start off. I don't know if we talked about him enough in the first friendly, but definitely want to mention him more now in more detail. And that's Yunus Musah, who in the midfield just looked so potent. Austin, controlled, calm. His vision is excellent, and just plays well beyond his years. You saw, especially with this game, I can't remember the amount of times that he filled up those passing lanes and just the feel, the awareness, intelligence to intercept the balls, and then just his strength and his just calmness when he's able to win the ball back, and then again make some of those McKennie-like runs and just spring for that first goal instead of Reina getting fouled. He blew by a few people and just shrugged off some other tough Panamanian men. You could say just full-grown adults on him, and again able to draw the foul, and he just looked really impressive, Austin, throughout this camp. And I think there's something that you pointed out and wanted you to touch on a little bit, but was just kind of how, I guess, happy he looked on the field, and just seemed like he really enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, you could definitely see whenever they cut the camera to him in some of the down moments in the game where by down moments I mean just like when play was stopped, things
Right.
like that. When he subbed off the other day, when he was talking with Gio Reyna, you could see a big smile on his face, and I really just think that's a good sign. I know in some of the other videos that you saw from the USMNT account away from the games, you saw people interacting with him, and he was always laughing and kind of enjoying his time. It looked like, at least from an outsider view. So I thought that was as good as his play. I thought that was even better to see that he had such a positive experience in this camp. I think someone put it on Twitter that Serginho Dest committed to us after two of the worst games that we played when he was on the field against Canada when we lost, and whoever the other team was. I think it was Uruguay was the other game he played with us.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was a South American team.
One of those two. Yeah, and he even committed to us after those two horrible games, or not the best experience in terms of your first USMNT games. So I thought that was really cool. In addition to his good play, I think we saw he was a fantastic player. He's only 17 years old, so if we can get him, we have to get him.
Yeah, just want to quickly add, he has a few choices, obviously, with England right there, but
Yeah.
I think also somebody else tweeted. It might have been Taylor there, but I believe he mentioned just things almost couldn't have gone better. Like you said, just in terms of his experience. Obviously, the game at Wales was 0-0 draw, but just to have him play with the amount of playing time he had, and the bonds you could see on and off the field, and just seeing what all these American players now, this Europe-based roster where you had McKennie doing some amazing things, midfielder with Juventus, Serginho Dest at Barcelona, even I mean, you could go on and on with some of the other players we mentioned, Yanez and the rest of the Soto and Gioacchini, all in Europe. Just seeing the movement, I think overall is really going to resonate with Musah.
Yeah, and I think he has a game plan with this team. Greg Berhalter called him in, played him in some really good games, in my opinion. I think the Wales game, even though it wasn't the best players on that roster, I think it was our first game in a year. It was a big milestone, so to speak, because it was the first time we really had a lot of these players on the field together. So I think playing him in that game shows him that Greg's not afraid to play him in pretty much any other game going forward. And I just think that England have such a wealth of talent at the moment that it might be too much for them, and kind of sway him towards our team even more just because of that. So maybe that's just me being hopeful, Pat. I don't know.
No, I agree, and I'm right there with you. I think we got to be hopeful, and I'm just giving kudos back to Greg and all the work that they put down just to even get to this point. So I think from that end, I don't have too much else. But Musah was, again, just a star in the making. If he's almost not there now, again, he's still 17. There's a lot of time there, but I think the sky's the limit for him, and maybe in a few years we'll see him at a really top tier team.
Yeah, that's a good point. Playing in La Liga could definitely pay big dividends too for him. So something I liked, Pat, to move on, was just the impact that Nick Gioacchini and Sebastian Soto made in this game. So Nick, in the first half, had some really good runs, like we said, some good hold-up play, and really just looks comfortable in this environment. That was the thing I really wanted to see from both of these players. If when they're on the field and tasked with playing that number 9 role, if they could, arise to the pressure that entails. I think this game was a perfect game for them to play in because, the level of competition wasn't that high, but they're also playing with, true first team USMNT players. You're getting service from Weston McKennie. You're on the field with Tyler Adams. You're on the field with Serginho Dest. So it really gave you that experience, like, you're going to get if you do play with this first team. And personally, I thought both of them rose to the task. Sebastian Soto, in his brief cameo, I thought did a really good job of just showcasing what he does best, and that's that poaching instinct and being in the right place at the right time in the box. And personally, I would have liked to see him start this game. So I felt good when he came on and made such a big impact. And then, Gioacchini, like I said, did what was asked of him. And I really like just the type of player he is. He's got a little bit of everything. He's not kind of a one-trick pony. He can do some of that poaching and finding the right spots to be in at the right time. But also looks pretty comfortable with the ball at his feet and combining with players, whether that's in the box or getting up the field on a breakaway. So yeah, I was really impressed with both of them, Pat. That was my takeaway.
Yeah, and just to quickly add, I agree with you. I was thoroughly impressed, especially wish to see see a little bit more in the first friendly. Obviously, limited time for everybody, but yeah, Gioacchini and Soto, just the fact that they had 2 goals each, in just this one game, was really impressive. And again, there's a lot of factors to consider. There's Panama, a friendly, things like that. But for their first real games. I mean, obviously we saw Gioacchini in the first one, but his first start. Even Soto, I guess his first debut there for the senior team.
Yeah, and we should mention too, real quick, that Soto actually broke a record. So, well, maybe not a record, but he did something that hasn't been done in a while, and that's scored 2 goals in a debut. So that's the first time since 1968 in USMNT history. So, pretty good debut.
Yeah, not too bad, Austin. Not too bad at all. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you summed it up perfectly. These 2, I think, are going to. I'm excited what this does for their prospects moving forward in Europe. It's ironic too. They're both at second division clubs, but it'll be interesting because again, this scoring goals on the national team level and getting some eyes. You saw what it did for Bobby Wood, for as an example. But I think, again, don't want to harp on it too much and sound too corny, but the sky's the limit for both of these players. I think they could really, really stick around and for pretty solid European clubs, making an impact there. So I guess I just wanted to move to my, second leg here quickly. And I think it really focuses Austin down to resiliency and just how they were able to come back. I know you touched on it before a little bit too, but even the start of the halves there, it was just a lot going on, I guess you could say, where they were feeling out the game, like we mentioned, and obviously going a goal down. How would these young players react? They haven't had much time together. There wasn't obviously a goal in the other game, but this is against, to be quite honest, a lower level competition, and your backs are against the wall, and they came out poised. The game plan didn't change. They got angrier, hungrier, but also with that anger was just control and just being composed with their movement and their on the ball play and finishing that you saw. And then even the second half, Austin, where things maybe died down a little bit and Panama started fouling them. It was a much more physical game and it looked like they were being subdued a little bit. But again, once that goal hit, they just took it to another level, and obviously some substitutions were made, but again, bombarded Panama with another 3 goals in that half. So I think just being resilient is really crucial, especially when you're playing in CONCACAF. When you're away with the pitch conditions and crazy fans and staying outside your hotel, not giving you sleep the night before, all those factors. I think that's crucial for qualifying.
Yeah, and we haven't really felt that in a little while. Looking back at that Canada game we lost, you could feel right from when we went 1 goal down that it was like, oh no, here again, like, oh well, like we're not going to win this game. But in this game, you really just felt like we were in control the whole time, which I think needs to be the case in World Cup qualifying because our team's becoming good enough to be that team in any game we step foot into, especially in CONCACAF. Like when we step on the field, we should be the favorites no matter what, whether we're down 1-0, whether we're down 2-0, we should always be the team that's going to come out on top. So, or at least have that mindset. So yeah, I agree, Pat. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, just specific players too, where you could see, McKennie. Obviously, I think he's, and Adams, some of the leaders there. I mean, you do have Leggett, but really on the pitch, you could see, those are players that just have fight, that have really grinded, from their days, back in the, MLS and the academies there of the States, and making their way in Europe, to really big clubs, and now, kind of, I guess, passing that all down to some of the other players here. And you could even see Miazga. I think it's to start the second half, and his arms were up in the air, animated, like, "Come on, guys, keep the energy up, get hyped and everything," and trying to, encourage the young players, which I thought that was a pretty cool moment. So you could see some of the fight, that a lot of the players have, and I think that's the culture that they're really trying to, you know, build up and then keep, for the next few World Cup cycles and beyond, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. So going on to another thing that I liked from this game was Serginho Dest inverted as a left back with Reggie Cannon on the right. So, Serginho Dest is by nature a right back. And in that first game against Wales, we really saw him get forward, put some good crosses into the box, and be a force at that right back position. So, in this game, I thought he didn't do as well as he did in that game, or maybe wasn't as effective. However, I do think he was effective enough, and the play we saw from Reggie Cannon, in my opinion, was better than the play we saw from Anthony Robinson. Obviously, again, the caveat that it might have been slightly lower competition, but I personally just really enjoyed what Reggie Cannon brought to the field in this game. I thought he was a difference maker, and I thought Serginho Dest was still a difference maker on that left side. Even though he didn't get as many crosses into the box, and in my opinion, didn't get as far forward as he did than he did on the right. But for the Reggie Cannon factor, that reason, I actually liked him on the left a little bit more with Cannon on the right than Dest on the right and Robinson on the left. So Pat, what do you think about this? Did you feel the same way, or did you have kind of another opinion?
Yeah, no, I felt the same way, but also, I guess, just some factors I was thinking about were the level of competition, and I would be curious to see how Anthony would do against Panama. But again, for the most part, I certainly agree with you where Cannon was a threat, and you could see obviously he forced a handball and had some dangerous moments moving forward. And Dest obviously was, fairly effective going forward, but like you said, I think we were talking off camera a little bit more about this, but he certainly looked even better on the right side in his favorite position there. And I think it would be perfect if we get a lefty Serginho Dest and clone him for both flanks there. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, you did mention something interesting to me too off camera, is potentially Tim Ream being that left back with Serginho playing right back in his natural position. Is this something you want to see, or were you just kind of throwing that out there as like maybe Tim Ream's like a decent, like solid left back, someone that can, know his limits, and Serginho can then kind of be in that more comfortable position and do what he does. Do you think that's something we really should see, or was that more just, something you're throwing out there?
Kind of throwing out, but also, part of it would be curious to see. I don't think that's a, long-term solution, but we have seen Ream just kind of play it safe, do kind of effective things, just kind of almost not anything amazing, I guess, going forward, but just preventing really bad things from happening in the left back slot. Obviously, I think Dest is so good on the right. But yeah, I don't think long term necessarily that would work. But it'd be curious to see, whether we go against Mexico or other top tier teams like an England or a Spain, and how that would work to be able to have Dest operate on his preferred flank there on the outside right, and then just kind of keep things and bunker down with Tim Ream on the left. Obviously, that would neutralize the left a lot, but I think that'd be interesting going forward.
Okay. See, I'm not sold on that. I still like Reggie Cannon on the field, so I'm going to stick to Serginho on the left, and
That's fair. That's fair.
when we start off the World Cup qualifiers. So yeah, but now moving on, Pat, I think we're going to look at, I guess, one thing we thought the USMNT could improve on from this game. So what is your one thing?
Yeah, so the one thing I think they really could improve on would be just their focus. And I think that's going to come with more and more game time experience in training camp. They're very young players, but as we know, soccer or football, you could say, is a game of making sure you come up with a strategy. Things will shift, substitutes, things like that. But you have to keep that level, that consistent energy level. And what separates the good teams, great teams from the good teams, I should say, excuse me. It's just that level of focus and consistency where, maybe there's obviously a few turnovers every soccer game, but you saw, for example, in this game where you're against a team like Mexico or even, just some of those other top tier teams I listed earlier, national teams, where you take their foot off the gas for the first part of each half, 10 or 15 minutes, they could capitalize like that. And I guess key points would be, again, not to take away from the camp, but McKinney and Reyna having some errant balls, kind of dribbling through too much traffic or passing right into a Panamanian defender. Some top tier teams would just counter right away. Like your Argentinas, Germany's, and all those good teams, and put the ball in the back of the net pretty quickly from a few of those errant passes. So they were able to kind of again be resilient and get their focus back. But I think that will build over time. So I think that's one of my improvements as a whole for the group.
Yeah, and you could really see that on the first goal too. Like you said earlier, there was some breakdown on that right wing between Gio Reyna and Reggie Cannon, and then the center backs too weren't on the same page.
Right, good point.
Yeah, it almost seemed like that's a pretty good example of that. So the one thing I wanted to see the USMNT improve upon, and it actually goes to what I was just talking about, and that's finding that right center defensive center back partnership. So John Brooks I thought looked pretty good in the first game. Matt Miazga, a little shaky in the first game. In my opinion, was even more shaky in this game. And I really thought this was his camp to shine and show that he proved to be the starter next to John Brooks. And coming away from this camp, I'm not sold. So I thought he wasn't great. Tim Ream today looked kind of like the same old Tim Ream we've seen. Someone who plays pretty good most of the game and then makes one or two errant passes or misses, doesn't mark his man and gets burned from it. And we saw that again today, kind of on that first goal. It was kind of, in my opinion, more his fault than Matt Miazga's fault. So I think we really got to figure out who that center back is going to be next to John Brooks. Coming away from this camp, my first feeling is Aaron Long. I know Aaron Long hasn't had the best season in MLS, but in my opinion, it hasn't been that bad of a season either. I really like kind of the mentality he has too. I really think over the past 2 to 3 years, since he's really become that, one of the best center backs in the league in MLS, I think he comes into camps with an air of confidence that, warrants that starting position. When things go bad, it doesn't seem like his confidence or his mentality is kind of shaken. So I really like that quality about him. I also think he's not that bad of a passer. I know some people don't think that's the case, but I think he's perfectly fine. And I think he's got the physicality too, to go through a World Cup qualifying cycle and kind of be one of the main guys we can rely upon in defense. So that was kind of my takeaway from this game. I thought the center back partnership needs to we're still searching, Pat, I should say. I don't think we found that center back.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And there certainly is some talent coming from the pipeline, and I agree. I think one of the first names that came to my mind too was Aaron Long, and obviously there were some rumors in the past circulating in Europe, but
Right.
like you said, maybe not the best in form or the best season here, but he's still a very solid player. One of the top center backs in the league, and certainly at the level where saw a few games for the national team where I think he was able to just keep some calmness and some of the jitters or shakiness you saw Miazga have in these two games. I don't think you would see as much from Long, and more commitment, and he's a pretty athletic guy where he's able to track back pretty quick or just kind of make those lunges at the right time and not kind of be errant with his tackles and smart about that. Again, I think that would be a really interesting partnership with Brooks. I'm curious to see how that would be, but also, yeah, I mean, yeah, we're still searching, I guess, is what coming. I guess my takeaway is.
Yeah, there's two other names on that list that could get a look, pretty soon. And I was surprised one of them didn't get more of a look in this camp, and that's Chris Richards and Mark McKenzie. We saw Chris Richards make his debut, come on for, what was it, Pat, the final 10 minutes of
Yeah, I think so, something like that.
But in my opinion, I think Richard still needs a little bit more time to get his feet under him at the professional level. That's just my take, and I think seeing that he didn't start either of these games, I think that may be something you can draw from this camp. That maybe it's going to take a little bit more time for him to kind of work his way into the fold here with the full national team. So I hope that he's the answer going forward. But I think in the the near term or the short term, I think you got to look at Aaron Long, and then maybe Mark McKenzie, because I think he's maybe a little bit more mature at the moment. He's played a lot of professional games. I believe he's in his third full professional season. So I think he might get into the fold a little quicker. And especially if the USMNT have a camp in December, which it sounds like might be the case, he might get a call up and be one of the starting center backs for that camp. So those are two names, I guess, just to kind of throw out there real quick. So I guess moving on to the full camp, Pat, what is your big takeaway from this whole camp, the two games, the week and a half we saw of training? What would it be?
Yeah, it's good. And I want more, Austin. I want more. I don't want them to go back to the clubs. A few more friendlies. Right. But I think the biggest takeaways and for these exciting friendlies were just some of the stocks that have risen, for some of our players. And really want to highlight and go into a little more. I know we touched on for the other segment that the things I liked. But again, I think Yunus Musah stock has rose tremendously. Obviously, and initially, I guess more recently, I should say, get my wording right there. Musah, for the week leading up, there's a lot of noise around him, a lot of highlights, and then the buzz just came quick and fast, and you could see that from Valencia to here. And you obviously have Gioacchini and Sebastian Soto, the other two strikers, just putting the balls in the back of the net. So I think those three players have shown a lot on this camp, and just seeing Musah, especially Austin, start these two games and just have such an impact, just coming into a team where there's a lot of promising talent, and this is, you could argue, one of the most talented rosters that we've had in a while. Obviously, you mix in some of the experienced MLS guys too, but there was a lot. This is what you're looking at for the future, and to see him inserted so quickly and be so dominant and a focal point of the team with McKennie, I think was amazing to see.
Yeah, you really said it. Him and McKennie formed a pretty good partnership, and I think personally, McKennie showed so much in both these games that if I'm Yunus Musah, I'm looking at him like, man, like that guy is like a pretty good midfielder, someone that I can kind of look up to. It seems like they have very jovial personalities. We know Wes McKinney's the clown of the group, so to speak, and Yunus Musah looks like he's always happy-go-lucky as well. So I thought he was kind of the perfect, Yunus Musah is really kind of, I guess if he stays in the USMNT camp or corner going forward, I think he could be a great apprentice to Weston McKennie and kind of learn from him. And, Weston can be his mentor. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right.
And I also think, Weston McKennie and Serginho Dest stock, in my opinion, went up in this camp. Both of them looked fantastic in both games. So, I agree, Pat.
Yeah, certainly good takeaways, and I would almost even say, like you just said, Dest and McKennie, you guys are even above this list. But I think moving to Gioacchini and Soto, those players I think were very, very much question marks going in, and you had Gioacchini playing in the second division in France. Heard some rumblings there. We've reported on our show weekly, but he's had some goals and assists here and there, and had a pretty good rise, through Con. But the performance he had against Panama today was really impressive. Just somebody exactly what we wanted to see. Be that poacher, Also, you could see him drop back and have some good combination plays initially too. So
Right.
something kind of
Yeah.
all over the pitch. He was able to hold up the ball, have some good flicks, and interchange and pass with the midfielders and other wingers there. But also found himself right in the box, which we didn't see in that first game. There were a lot of crosses where nobody was really in that 6-yard box or in that area. So I was really impressed with that, Austin. And then Soto, very similar. Soto, excuse me, very similar. 2 goals each, the second division there, and they I think had a lot to prove and show with that position being so just open for the taking, and we just need somebody, or a few strikers that are hungry and ready to take their chances, and that they showed the pressure didn't get to them. Obviously, unfortunate that Gioacchini missed the penalty, but to have the confidence there, put 2 goals in the back of the net, I think they're going to go back to their club situations, and this could really spark some interest from some even bigger clubs moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And Soto is at Norwich City, who right now they're in the championship, but that's a pretty good parent club to be at. So
Right, good point.
like they may recall him from Telstar and move him to a better team in the spring too. So yeah, I completely agree, Pat. So to look at one thing I took away from this camp is just kind of the chemistry that's forming. I think this was the first camp you really got to see the happy-go-lucky nature kind of permeate throughout the whole camp. It really didn't seem like there was any, not to say that in past camps there were, but there was no kind of animosity or just concern going into this camp. Everyone was on the same page. Everyone had the same goal in mind of coming out in that Wales game and making a statement. And the energy was just super high throughout the camp. You could see from all the training videos and just the games themselves, the players looked really comfortable, and they just looked to be enjoying the experience that they were having. So I thought that was cool. One thing I do think we should look at going forward, and maybe I'm stirring the pot here a little bit, Pat.
I like it, Austin. Give me the take.
This camp was pretty much all European-based players. You had Johnny Cardoso from South America, Sebastian Lletget also from MLS. So those were like the 2 outliers of this group. But I'm really curious to see when the MLS guys get mixed back into the group that was in this camp. Obviously some of these guys probably won't be in the next combined camp, but I think in the past, something that I've noticed and have kind of kept hush or just kept to myself is it just seems like some of the MLS players take not offense, but it just seems like they're uneasy around the European guys. And I think
Right.
Vice versa, the European guys are kind of looking at some of these MLS players who maybe aren't as polished as the European guys are. It's I think safe to say that the guys playing in Europe are playing at generally a higher level than the guys playing in MLS. And I think you do have some outliers of that MLS group, like Jordan Morris, who's winning trophies in MLS. He's scoring a lot of goals, and Aaron Long, a player who's been linked to a move abroad and has been he won best center back in the league. So you have some guys in that MLS camp that kind of have a status similar to those players in Europe. But I do think there's a group of MLS guys who kind of feel like they don't fit. And in my opinion, you've seen kind of that tension between the two groups. So that's just something I feel like I've seen. And I'm curious to see if that is the case going forward. Because I think if we have a camp with MLS players and European players, and it's not as happy-go-lucky, not as energetic, and there's just some uneasiness or some tension, and it doesn't look the same as what we saw. Like, this is what we saw, or what we want to see going forward is what we saw in this camp, this kind of happy-go-lucky, good-natured camp. And I think if we don't see that in the next combined camp, that's going to be something I'll look to and see if that's actually the case or not. So let me know if you agree in the comments, please. I'd love to debate it out. I feel like some people may have a harsh take with that, but what do you think, Pat? Do you think that's something that is going on and should be something that's looked at?
Yeah, I think that's really intriguing that you brought that up, because you have we saw some of this flair in some of the, I guess, turns and flicks and tricks that you see Serginho Dest training in and day out at Barcelona, one of the best clubs in the world. Weston's taking his another game, best club in the world, one of the best clubs in the world, I should say, at Juventus there, and just elevating their games. Yeah, and I think that's something that, you know, and not to, again, I guess not put it so bluntly, but you have Musah, 17, you're just a young guy with Gioacchini too, just turning, I believe, 18. His birthday is coming up pretty shortly here.
Yeah, he
But
just had it. Yeah.
I just had it, yeah. Happy belated. But yeah, I mean, just players like that, coming to a camp, merging with maybe an MLS veteran or a player that's mid late 20s, and just seeing Gio run circles at Dortmund, I think again, just from a psychological perspective, could maybe cause some kind of I don't want to go as far to say as a huge rift or anything, but I think like you, I'm very curious and I want to observe how they integrate and how they interact. But I do, I'm taking the optimistic approach here. I think there's just this culture that's permeating throughout the group and just the entire program, and I think we're going to see the philosophy come together. And again, I think Morris and some of those really long and some of the top MLS guys come in and thrive and mix pretty well. So I'm keeping my high hopes up, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that integration goes in the locker room and behind the scenes that we won't see until the product is on the pitch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, there's a big age difference between some of these players, and yeah, it's got to feel different. Coming in and having a 17-year-old. Like if we pulled together a starting 11 right now with any player in the pool, Gio Reyna would probably be in that starting lineup. So it's weird to see a 17-year-old or now 18-year-old starting over you if you've worked your whole life to get into this camp. So yeah, I'm sure that kind of plays a role into it as well. So yeah, that's something to look at going forward, and we'll see. So I think, Pat, with all we talked about today, it's finally time to bring our episode to a close. So make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
And don't forget to check out Twitter and Instagram. We have Austin doing a great job with the reels, the stories, everything. So, be on the lookout for all this content. It was awesome to, put some out for this camp with the national team, but, we're shifting back to the club situations now.
That's true. And some good ones at that. And yeah, make sure you find us on, we have a podcast form of the show. So make sure you find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And yeah.
Yeah, Austin, I mean, obviously you saw a great improvement in terms of, being goals scored, some of that chemistry forming, but it'd be kind of interesting to see, moving forward. Next time we'll see the boys and maybe some other, MLS players come together. And I think this is just all setting up for, a really, bright future down the road here.
That's right. And that is that one day we will win the elusive World Cup.